Han did not ask what had happened in North Hollow. That made Kai more nervous than questions would have. They met after school near the southern fence of Ruins Park, where the grass grew thin around old concrete and the warning signs had faded from red to a tired rust color. The sky was still light, but evening had begun gathering in the hollows between buildings. Beyond the fence, the broken slabs of the ruins leaned in silence. The park was not empty. A woman walked a small dog along the paved path, tugging it away each time it tried to sniff the fence. Two middle school students cut through the corner with their backpacks bouncing. A city maintenance truck rolled past without slowing. Ordinary life kept passing the ruins, glancing at the warning signs and deciding they were someone else's concern. Kai wondered how many people had walked past Old Danger so many times it became scenery. Han waited until the path cleared before speaking. Even that patience felt like part of the lesson. Han stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the stones rather than at Kai. 5 breaths, he said. Kai set his feet. His legs remembered yesterday's stance and complained immediately. He lowered into rooted reed anyway. Breath 1 shook. Breath 2 caught on the memory of the ward map. Breath 3 brought the image of the underground gate rising toward him, old and dark and waiting. Table. Lantern. Map. The memory receded. By the 5th breath, sweat had gathered at his temples. Han nodded. Better. Kai straightened slowly. That was the test. That was the door before the test. Of course it was. Han finally looked at him. Spirit is not bravery. Bravery is a movement. Spirit is what remains when movement is not possible. Kai rubbed his wrist where Lena's assessment cloth had tightened the night before. Everyone explains cultivation like it is trying to become a proverb. Because careless explanations kill people. The answer was plain enough that Kai stopped joking. Han pointed through the fence toward a flat stone just inside the ruins. It was not large or dramatic. Moss climbed one side, and rainwater had gathered in a shallow depression across its surface. Sit there. Kai stared. Inside the fence. Yes. That is illegal. So is much of your current existence, depending on who writes the law. Again with the comfort. Han's mouth twitched. You may refuse. Kai looked at the stone. The ember in his chest stirred, not eagerly this time, but carefully. As if it recognized the place and remembered Lena's warning, do not answer every resonance. What does the test do? Kai asked. Han studied him for a moment. Good, he said. Good. You asked before stepping forward. The praise landed awkwardly. Kai did not know what to do with it. Han continued. The ruins hold memory. Not complete memories. Impressions. Pressure left behind by fear, pain, discipline, and repetition. Your body has begun to notice chi. Your spirit must learn the difference between what is yours and what is only passing through. Kai looked through the fence again. And if I fail? Then we stop. He blinked. That's it? This is training, not judgment. The difference mattered so much that Kai had to look away. The system shimmered. Training scenario available, spirit tempering condition, maintain self-awareness during controlled memory exposure. Reward, minor spirit stabilization. Risk, emotional strain. Kai exhaled slowly. That was not the dramatic trial window he expected. No severe penalty. No declaration that failure meant he was unworthy. Just strain, training, and a small possible improvement. He climbed through the gap Han indicated and sat on the damp stone. Cold seeped through his pants. The ruins smelled of wet moss, old dust, and faint metal. Han crouched in front of him and placed 2 fingers lightly against Kai's forehead. If you lose the room, name 3 things. Table, lantern, map. Those belong to last night. Choose things from here. Kai looked around. Fence, he said. Stone. Street lamp. Han nodded. Good. Begin. Darkness did not swallow him. He had expected the memory to arrive like the vision in the lower ward, violent, complete, impossible to mistake for anything else. Instead it came almost politely. The edges of the park softened first. The cold stone beneath him remained cold. The evening air still touched his face. Somewhere beyond the fence, a car passed with music thudding faintly through closed windows. Then another feeling layered itself over the real one. Not replacing the world. Sharing space with it. That was the first surprise. Instead, the park dimmed around the edges. The fence blurred. The street lamp's hum stretched into a long thin note. Kai remained on the stone, aware of his knees, his breath, the damp chill beneath him. Then the whispers came. Not voices exactly. More like thoughts wearing other people's shapes. Weak. Fragile. Too late. The words hurt because they were familiar. They had lived in him long before any ruin learned to echo them. Weak was the word he had built entire mornings around. Fragile had been said by doctors more kindly and classmates less so. Too late belonged to every deadline he had missed because his body had chosen that day to become a locked door. The ruins did not invent the wound. They only pressed where it already was. Kai inhaled. Fence. The chain links glimmered in the corner of his vision. Stone. Cold under his legs. Street lamp. Buzzing overhead, stubborn and ugly and real. The whispers shifted. He saw a gym floor. White lights. Students pretending not to stare. His own hands shaking as he tried to push himself upright. Then the scene changed to a clinic room, a doctor's mouth forming careful words while his mother nodded too quickly. Not memories from the ruins. His own. Kai's breath hitched. Han's voice reached him from far away. Do not fight the image. Name it. Mine, Kai whispered. The pressure lessened by a fraction. Another image rose, Mina on the library stairs, eyes sharp with worry. Ryan grinning too widely to hide that he was watching. Lena saying secrets given too soon became tools. Then Marta appeared behind the convenience store counter, telling him he looked pale and weird. His manager's sigh came next, heavy with disappointment. His apartment door. The envelope of bills. His grandmother's old cup in the cabinet, chipped along the rim because he had never been able to throw it away. The images did not attack him. That almost made them worse. They simply arrived, each carrying a thread of responsibility, until the threads tangled around his breath. Fear tightened around Kai's ribs. If Mina knew, she might be hurt. If Ryan knew, he might charge straight at danger just to prove he could. If anyone knew, the thing beneath North Hollow might not be the only thing to find him. Spirit stress rising. Kai opened his eyes. For one breath, the ruins were only ruins. Han watched him without moving. Continue. Han asked. Kai almost said yes too quickly. Then he stopped. His hands were shaking. One more cycle, he said. Then I stop. Han's expression changed slightly. Approval, maybe. Good. Kai closed his eyes again. The whispers returned, but he no longer treated them as commands. Some were his. Some belonged to the stone. Some were only fear passing through old cracks and finding his shape convenient. Fence. Stone. Street lamp. He breathed until he could feel the boundary between himself and the echo. It was not a wall. Walls were too rigid. This felt more like the edge between shore and water, shifting but real. Memories could touch him. Fear could rise. The ruins could offer old pressure in familiar shapes. None of that meant he had to become what touched him. For one clear second, Kai understood why Han had called spirit what remained when movement was not possible. He was not moving. He was still choosing. The system chimed softly. Training complete, spirit tempering, spirit stability improved. Trait seed detected, steadfast will not unlocked. Detected. Kai opened his eyes and leaned forward with both hands on the stone. Sweat ran down his face, and his chest ached as if he had been holding back a cough for an hour. Han removed his fingers from Kai's forehead. For a while, neither of them moved. Han let the silence stand between them without filling it. That was becoming a pattern with him. He trusted quiet to finish work other people interrupted too early. Kai wiped his sleeve across his face and looked at the damp mark it left. His body felt wrung out, but not hollow. The difference was difficult to name. Before, exhaustion had always felt like something taken from him. This felt like something spent on purpose. How many times do I do this before it stops hurting? He asked. If it stops hurting completely, you are probably no longer paying attention. That is a terrible sales pitch for training. I am not selling it. Han stood and offered him a hand. Kai hesitated only a moment before taking it. The older man's grip was dry and steady, and he pulled Kai up without making the help feel like rescue. Kai's knees objected immediately. He grabbed the fence post with his free hand and waited for the world to settle. Again tomorrow, he asked. Not the memory exposure. Stance, breath, and walking the boundary from outside the fence. Walking can be training too. Everything is training if done with attention. Everything is damage if done without it. Kai looked at the broken slabs beyond the fence. He thought of the underground gate, the old pressure, the whispering memories that had borrowed his own wounds to speak. Then he thought of Mina's lunch container, Ryan's too sharp grin, Marta's blunt worry, Lena's insistence on consent before the assessment needle. Maybe attention was not only a way to survive danger. Han began walking along the fence, slow enough that Kai could follow without limping visibly. He did not speak for the first half of the path. The silence gave Kai time to feel the difference between the ruin's pressure and his own anticipation of it. They were not the same. That seemed important. At the corner, Han stopped and pointed to the street lamp. Name it. Street lamp. Again tomorrow, choose 3 new things. Spirit grows lazy if it anchors to habit alone. Kai nodded, too tired to argue and too grateful to admit that the instruction helped. Before they parted, Han made him stand once more outside the fence, not in the full stance, only with both feet honest beneath him. The ruins pressed faintly at his attention. Kai named the fence, the street lamp, and the cold seam of the talisman box in his pocket. 3 ordinary anchors, 3 reminders that he was allowed to remain himself even beside old stone. Maybe it was a way to keep ordinary things from being swallowed by it. You stopped before pride made the decision for you, Han said. Kai laughed weakly. That is progress. More than enduring until collapse. The words struck deeper than Han likely intended. Kai looked at the ruins. The stones no longer seemed silent, but they also no longer felt like mouths waiting to swallow him. They were old. They remembered too much. That did not mean every memory belonged to him. A breeze crossed the grass and stirred the weeds around the broken slabs. The street lamp buzzed overhead, ugly and steady. On the path beyond the fence, life resumed its ordinary shape, footsteps, a bike bell, someone laughing into a phone. Kai stayed seated for another breath, not because the test demanded it, but because leaving too quickly felt like flinching away from something that had finally stopped grabbing. The system pulsed again. Foundation stability increased. Kai breathed out. No grand reward. No sudden transformation. No proof that he was chosen. Only a clearer line inside himself than before. For tonight, that was enough.